In a galaxy on the brink of war, an unlikely alliance between a brilliant genetic engineer and a battle-scarred ship mechanic will uncover a conspiracy that could destroy entire worlds. When professional lines blur and personal boundaries are crossed, their choices might just rewrite the fate of the universe. Subscribe now to witness their dangerous journey. The acrid smell of burnt plasma circuits filled the air as Lucas Frost crouched beneath the massive underbelly of the Mark 7 cruiser. His calloused fingers danced across the diagnostic panel, searching for the source of the mysterious power fluctuations that had plagued the vessel's hyperdrive system. Years of working on the orbital shipyard had taught him to recognize when something wasn't quite right, not just mechanically, but politically. The increased military traffic, the sudden influx of classified modifications requests, these were signs he'd learned to read like tea leaves predicting an approaching storm. Meanwhile, Docking Bay 17 was preparing for its most prestigious visitor yet. Valeriana's approach in her custom-renovated exploration vessel caused more than a few heads to turn among the maintenance crews. Her ship, the Celestial Symphony, wasn't just technologically advanced. It practically hummed with living energy, its hull shimmering with patterns that seemed to breathe in rhythm with some unseen pulse. As she stepped onto the platform, her presence commanded attention without demanding it, much like the way her genetically engineered organisms responded to her thoughts rather than orders. Their paths crossed at the worst possible moment, precisely when the station's security protocols began malfunctioning simultaneously across multiple sectors. Lucas was running diagnostics when he spotted her, surrounded by a team of engineers who looked both awed and intimidated by her reputation. Something about her methodical movements reminded him of the precision required in calibrating quantum stabilizers, each step deliberate, each gesture containing layers of meaning known only to those fluent in the language of creation itself. Neither could have predicted how this chance encounter would entangle their lives in a web of political intrigue that reached far beyond the confines of the orbital station. Above them, the stars continued their silent vigil, unaware that two seemingly ordinary individuals were about to become pivotal players in a drama that would determine the fate of entire civilizations. Valeriana's research chamber aboard the Celestial Symphony was unlike any laboratory Lucas had ever seen. The walls themselves seemed alive, pulsating with bioluminescent patterns that shifted according to her mood and mental focus. Instead of traditional equipment, organic interfaces grew from the bulkheads, responding to her touch with a sensitivity that made conventional technology seem primitive by comparison. As she explained her work in genetic engineering to Lucas, demonstrating how she could manipulate DNA strands with mere thought through her neural interface, he couldn't help but notice the subtle tremor in her hands, a sign of the immense pressure she carried from her home planet. Centauri Prime, her homeworld, stood on the brink of revolution. The ruling council had grown increasingly authoritarian, suppressing scientific advancements that threatened their control over the population's genetic heritage. Valeriana's breakthroughs in adaptive genome modification had become both a blessing and a curse. While they promised unprecedented medical advancements, they also represented a threat to the established order. Her presence here, officially to upgrade her fleet's biological systems, was actually cover for gathering allies who understood the potential consequences of restricting such knowledge. Lucas listened intently, his mechanical expertise recognizing parallels between her genetic codes and the complex engineering challenges he faced daily. Both fields dealt with intricate systems where a single error could cascade into catastrophic failure. Yet what struck him most was her conviction that science should serve all beings equally, regardless of political affiliation or social status. This philosophy resonated deeply with his own experiences watching wealthy corporations prioritize profit over safety in ship designs. As they delved deeper into technical discussions, their mutual respect grew. Valeriana appreciated Lucas's ability to grasp abstract biological concepts through the lens of engineering, while he marveled at her willingness to bridge the gap between their disciplines. Their conversations often stretched late into the artificial night cycle of the station, exploring how mechanical and biological systems could integrate more seamlessly. These exchanges planted seeds of an idea neither had anticipated, that perhaps their combined expertise held the key to addressing the political unrest brewing back on Centauri Prime. The first hint of trouble came during routine maintenance on Valeriana's primary shuttlecraft. Lucas noticed microscopic fractures in the alloy surrounding the quantum core, stress patterns that shouldn't exist in a vessel this new. As he ran deeper diagnostics, the readings revealed something even more alarming: embedded surveillance nanites specifically designed to monitor genetic engineering activities. Someone had been watching Valeriana's every move, collecting data on her research without her knowledge. The discovery sent shockwaves through their operation. Valeriana immediately initiated emergency protocols, isolating her most sensitive research files within encrypted biological storage units, literally encoding her data into strands of synthetic DNA. Meanwhile, Lucas worked feverishly to trace the origin of the surveillance devices, following electronic breadcrumbs through layers of bureaucratic obfuscation. What they uncovered was chilling: a shadow network operating within Centauri's highest governmental circles, systematically harvesting genetic research for purposes far darker than simple political control. Their investigation took a dangerous turn when they intercepted a classified communication intended for one of Valeriana's supposed allies. The message contained detailed plans for weaponizing her adaptive genome technology, transforming healing innovations into tools of mass destruction. Worse still, the transmission originated from her own planet's defense ministry, confirming their worst fears about internal corruption reaching the highest levels. The gravity of their situation crystallized during a tense meeting in Lucas's private workshop. Surrounded by half-dismantled engine components and glowing diagnostic displays, they pieced together a disturbing picture. Powerful factions within Centauri's government had been quietly funding extremist groups across neighboring star systems, using stolen genetic research to create biological weapons capable of targeting specific populations. The goal wasn't merely political control, it was ethnic cleansing on an interstellar scale. As they compiled evidence, protecting their findings became paramount. Lucas modified several old cargo drones into decoy units, programming them to broadcast false research data while they worked on securing the real information. Valeriana, drawing on her expertise in genetic memory storage, began encoding crucial details into specially engineered microorganisms that could survive even complete system failures. Their makeshift safe house transformed into a fortress of secrets, each discovery adding another layer to the horrifying truth about the conspiracy threatening to tear apart the fragile peace of their sector. The orbital station's observation deck provided a perfect vantage point for clandestine meetings, its transparent alloy walls offering uninterrupted views of nearby construction bays while maintaining plausible deniability for anyone watching. Here, amidst the constant hum of welding torches and the occasional flare of plasma cutters, Lucas and Valeriana gathered their small but growing network of allies. Chief among them was Commander Rhea Solis, a former Centauri naval officer who had defected after discovering similar traces of the conspiracy in military records. Her tactical expertise proved invaluable in planning their next moves. Their strategy sessions often stretched for hours, illuminated only by the glow of multiple holodisplays projecting star charts and encrypted messages. They identified 3 critical vulnerabilities in the conspiracy's infrastructure: a secret research facility orbiting a gas giant in the Vega system, a network of disguised freighters transporting experimental biological agents, and a covert communications hub hidden within an asteroid mining operation. Each target required a different approach, forcing them to think creatively about combining their respective skills. Valeriana's genetic engineering prowess led to perhaps their most ingenious solution: creating specialized microbial agents that could infiltrate and disable the biological weapons without causing collateral damage. These microscopic saboteurs would be delivered via specially modified maintenance drones, programmed to appear as routine repair vehicles. Lucas's experience with ship systems allowed them to design these drones with plausible cover stories built into their operational logs, making them indistinguishable from legitimate maintenance traffic. Their plan demanded precise timing and coordination. While Valeriana worked on perfecting the microbial agents in her laboratory, Lucas coordinated with trusted colleagues throughout the station to arrange for simultaneous distractions, fake emergencies, and routine inspections that would draw attention away from their actual targets. Commander Solis handled the most dangerous aspect: gathering intelligence on patrol patterns and security protocols through her remaining contacts in the military. Every detail mattered, from the exact composition of the microbial agents to the maintenance schedules of targeted vessels. They created elaborate contingency plans, developing multiple escape routes and backup strategies for each phase of their operation. The tension mounted with each passing day, but their resolve strengthened as they watched their network grow, driven by the shared understanding that failure wasn't an option, not when millions of lives hung in the balance. The operation's first major test came during what should have been a routine inspection of the Vega System Research Facility. Disguised as a standard maintenance crew, Lucas and two trusted associates approached the facility, while Valeriana monitored their progress from a safe distance aboard the Celestial Symphony. Everything seemed to be going according to plan until their lead drone detected unexpected energy signatures, powerful enough to fry their carefully crafted microbial agents before they could deploy. Panic threatened to overwhelm them as they realized their carefully laid plans were unraveling. Without the microbial agents to neutralize the biological weapons safely, any direct confrontation risked catastrophic contamination. Lucas's mind raced through alternative solutions, his years of mechanical problem-solving kicking into overdrive. Then he remembered an old technique for rerouting power couplings. If they could temporarily disable the facility's shielding, it might create just enough time for manual deployment of the agents. Valeriana, monitoring the situation remotely, made a split-second decision that would change everything. Overriding her own safety protocols, she piloted the Celestial Symphony dangerously close to the facility, using its unique bioorganic systems to generate an electromagnetic pulse specifically tuned to the facility's defenses. The maneuver was risky, too close and they risked destroying their own agents. Too far, and it wouldn't penetrate the shielding. Sweat poured down her face as she fought to maintain precise control, her fingers dancing across controls that blurred the line between machine and organism. Inside the facility, chaos erupted as systems failed and alarms blared. Lucas seized the moment, manually deploying the microbial agents through access ports normally used for coolant maintenance. The tiny organisms spread rapidly, seeking out and deactivating the dangerous biological compounds before security teams could respond. But their victory was short-lived, unknown to them. Their actions had triggered automated distress signals that couldn't be recalled. Back aboard the Celestial Symphony, Valeriana worked frantically to cover their tracks, planting false data trails and initiating pre-programmed distraction protocols across the station. Every second counted as they raced against time, knowing that once the conspiracy's leaders realized what had happened, there would be no place left to hide. The weight of their decisions pressed heavily upon them. They had succeeded in neutralizing one threat, but in doing so, had likely signed their own death warrants. In the aftermath of the Vega facility operation, Lucas found himself staring at his reflection in a pool of hydraulic fluid, the dark circles under his eyes betraying sleepless nights spent scanning security footage and analyzing encrypted communications. The weight of their actions pressed down on him like the artificial gravity of the station amplified tenfold. He knew they had done the right thing, but the cost of their moral victory gnawed at his conscience. Dozens of researchers, many of them innocent scientists caught in the conspiracy's web, had been arrested when authorities descended upon the compromised facility. Valeriana wrestled with her own demons in the quiet moments between strategy sessions, staring at the swirling patterns on her ship's organic walls that mirrored the turmoil within her mind. The electromagnetic pulse she had generated, while successful, had caused unintended damage to nearby civilian vessels. Reports of disrupted medical equipment and failed life support systems haunted her waking thoughts. She had always believed in the purity of scientific advancement, but now she faced the harsh reality that even the noblest intentions could produce devastating consequences. Their relationship deepened through these shared burdens, forged in the crucible of impossible choices. Late-night conversations in Lucas's workshop evolved from technical discussions to philosophical debates about the nature of responsibility in technological advancement. Valeriana introduced him to Centauri's ancient meditation practices, teaching him to find stillness amidst chaos by focusing on the rhythmic patterns of his own breathing. In return, Lucas shared stories of his childhood in the station's lower levels, where necessity had taught him to see beauty in broken things, a perspective that helped Valeriana view their mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than sources of shame. Together, they developed new protocols for their operations, incorporating fail-safes and contingency plans that reflected their hard-won wisdom. Each decision now carried the weight of past consequences, forcing them to consider not just immediate outcomes, but long-term impacts on countless lives. Their partnership became a delicate dance of complementary strengths, Valeriana's visionary idealism tempered by Lucas's practical caution, his mechanical precision enhanced by her biological intuition. The transformation manifested in subtle ways. Lucas began incorporating organic elements into his mechanical designs, while Valeriana started approaching genetic engineering problems with an engineer's systematic methodology. Their individual growth mirrored their collective evolution, each challenge faced together bringing them closer to understanding not just the technical aspects of their mission, but the profound human dimensions of their struggle against forces larger than themselves. The conspiracy's counterattack came swiftly and brutally, catching them off guard despite their preparations. A squadron of black market mercenaries, equipped with cutting-edge stealth technology that rendered their ships nearly invisible to standard sensors, descended upon the orbital station. Their primary target was clear: the Celestial Symphony, now recognized as the nerve center of resistance against the biological weapons program. Valeriana watched in horror as her beloved ship's organic systems reacted to the incoming threat, defensive mechanisms activating automatically and flooding the corridors with protective spores that could suffocate intruders. Lucas's quick thinking saved them from immediate capture. Using his intimate knowledge of the station's maintenance tunnels, he led their small team through forgotten service passages, relying on decades-old maps stored in his personal database. The mercenaries, expecting straightforward pursuit through main corridors, found themselves chasing ghosts while their prey slipped through ancient ductwork and abandoned utility shafts. But the mercenaries had anticipated such evasive tactics. They deployed hunter drones programmed with adaptive learning algorithms that quickly mapped the station's obsolete architecture. The situation grew desperate as they realized their communications were being jammed. Valeriana's usual solution, deploying her custom-designed signal organisms, failed spectacularly when the creatures were intercepted and destroyed by the mercenaries' automated defenses. Trapped in a dead-end maintenance tunnel, with pursuers closing in from both directions, they faced their darkest hour. It was then that Lucas remembered an old decommissioned waste processing unit, its manual override still functional due to bureaucratic oversight. Working together, they converted the hazardous waste containment system into an improvised defense mechanism. Valeriana's genetic engineering expertise allowed them to modify the chemical composition of the waste products, creating a non-lethal but highly effective deterrent that would incapacitate their pursuers without causing permanent harm. As the mercenaries breached their position, they triggered the modified waste system, filling the tunnels with a thick, bioluminescent fog that disrupted both human senses and electronic tracking systems. The narrow escape left them shaken but alive, their bond strengthened by shared survival. Crawling through ventilation shafts and emerging in an abandoned docking bay, they realized the full extent of the conspiracy's reach. Even here, among supposedly neutral territory, they had powerful allies willing to sanction murder. The mercenaries' attack confirmed their worst fears. They were dealing with an organization that operated beyond planetary jurisdictions, its influence stretching across commercial and military sectors alike. The revelation hit them during a tense debriefing session in their new safe house, a decommissioned observation pod salvaged from the station's outer ring. As they analyzed the mercenaries' attack patterns and recovered data fragments, a disturbing pattern emerged. The conspiracy extended far beyond Centauri Prime, weaving through corporate boards, military commands, and diplomatic channels across multiple star systems. What they had initially perceived as isolated corruption within their home planet's government was, in fact, a vast network of interconnected interests spanning light years. Valeriana's expertise in genetic lineage tracing became instrumental in mapping these connections. By analyzing DNA samples recovered from captured mercenaries and cross-referencing them with public genetic databases, she uncovered startling relationships between seemingly unrelated power brokers. Wealthy industrialists from core worlds shared bloodlines with rogue scientists from frontier colonies, while military officers maintained genetic ties to notorious arms dealers. The pattern suggested centuries of careful breeding and strategic alliances, all pointing toward a singular objective: control of biological warfare capabilities. Lucas contributed his own insights, drawing parallels between this genetic network and the standardized engineering protocols used across various spacefaring civilizations. Just as certain mechanical systems had become universal standards through corporate lobbying and trade agreements, so too had specific genetic markers been deliberately propagated through arranged marriages and selective breeding programs. The implications were staggering. Entire populations had been unknowingly groomed as potential carriers for biological weapons, their genetic makeup subtly altered over generations to make them susceptible to manipulation. Their investigation led them to question fundamental assumptions about galactic development. Technological progress, once viewed as humanity's triumph over natural limitations, now appeared as carefully orchestrated stages in a larger scheme. Medical advancements in genetic engineering, celebrated as milestones of civilization, revealed themselves as tools for creating more efficient biological weapons platforms. Even the peaceful integration of cybernetic enhancements, which Lucas had spent years mastering, showed signs of having been influenced by this hidden agenda to create hybrid soldiers immune to conventional biological attacks. The scale of the conspiracy forced them to reconsider their approach. No longer could they view their struggle as a localized conflict or a matter of simple political reform. They faced an adversary that had shaped the very fabric of interstellar society, manipulating biological and mechanical evolution to serve its ends. Each new piece of evidence added to their understanding of how deeply entrenched these forces were in every aspect of galactic life, from economic policies to cultural norms. Their expanded awareness of the conspiracy's scope demanded a radical shift in strategy. During a secret meeting in the station's zero-gravity manufacturing sector, Lucas proposed a bold plan that would leverage both their strengths in unprecedented ways. Instead of continuing their cat-and-mouse game of disabling individual facilities, they would create a self-sustaining network of resistance cells, each protected by a unique combination of genetic and mechanical safeguards. The manufacturing sector's automated assembly lines, currently producing parts for commercial freighters, would become their foundation for building something revolutionary. Valeriana's contribution to this new strategy centered around developing what she termed adaptive resilience protocols, genetically engineered organisms capable of integrating with mechanical systems to create living defense mechanisms. These biomechanical hybrids would form the core of each resistance cell's security infrastructure, evolving in response to threats while maintaining complete loyalty to their designated protectors. The challenge lay in designing organisms that could interface with existing technology without triggering automated defenses or drawing unwanted attention. Lucas tackled the mechanical side of their plan, repurposing decommissioned maintenance drones into autonomous guardians capable of both physical protection and sophisticated data encryption. Drawing on his extensive knowledge of station infrastructure, he identified redundant power conduits and unused maintenance tunnels that could serve as hidden pathways for their network. These routes would connect the various resistance cells through a decentralized system that could survive even if multiple nodes were compromised. The integration of their approaches required months of meticulous experimentation. They transformed an abandoned cargo bay into their research facility, where mechanical components grew alongside organic structures in an unprecedented synthesis of their respective fields. Valeriana's organisms learned to interpret and respond to Lucas's mechanical systems through a shared language of bioelectric impulses, while his machines adapted to accommodate living tissue without compromising functionality. Their greatest breakthrough came when they successfully merged Valeriana's genetic memory storage techniques with Lucas's data encryption protocols. The resulting system could store and transmit information through living organisms, making it virtually impossible for conventional surveillance methods to detect. This innovation became the backbone of their communication network, allowing resistance cells to share intelligence and coordinate actions without fear of interception. As their network grew, they implemented strict compartmentalization protocols, ensuring that no single cell possessed complete knowledge of the others. Each group received only the information necessary for their specific role, protected by both genetic and mechanical firewalls that would activate instantly if compromised. The system's redundancy ensured that losing any single node would trigger automatic reconfiguration of the entire network, maintaining operational integrity while adapting to new threats. The conspiracy's leaders, aware of their expanding resistance network, launched a calculated strike that would test their new defenses to their limits. During a routine supply run to a remote outpost housing one of their earliest resistance cells, Lucas received an urgent distress signal, not through conventional channels, but through the subtle variations in the outpost's power consumption patterns. The encoded message revealed that the enemy had developed countermeasures specifically targeting their biomechanical security systems, rendering their carefully constructed defenses vulnerable. Valeriana's heart sank as she analyzed the data streaming from the compromised outpost. The attackers had somehow obtained samples of their hybrid organisms and reverse-engineered their neural pathways, creating artificial viruses that could hijack the very systems meant to protect them. Watching through external cameras as her creations turned against their hosts filled her with a mixture of horror and fascination. Their betrayal was almost human in its complexity. Lucas sprang into action, coordinating evacuation protocols while implementing emergency measures to contain the breach. His mechanical guardians, though similarly compromised, retained enough autonomy to execute basic protective functions. He remotely reprogrammed their core directives, forcing them to prioritize physical defense over data protection. The sight of his creations engaging in brutal combat against their corrupted counterparts was both heartbreaking and awe-inspiring, metal tearing into metal, sparks flying like blood in zero gravity. Their response required every ounce of their combined expertise. Valeriana worked feverishly to develop counterviruses, using the same principles that had created the original hybrids to engineer antibodies capable of neutralizing the artificial infections. Meanwhile, Lucas focused on establishing quarantine protocols, isolating affected systems while creating clean pathways for evacuation. The process was agonizingly slow. Each decision carried the weight of potential lives lost. Each action risked further contamination. The crisis peaked when they discovered that the virus had mutated, developing the ability to jump between purely mechanical systems. Suddenly, the entire station's infrastructure became suspect, every maintenance drone and automated system a potential carrier. They made the difficult decision to initiate a complete system shutdown, a drastic measure that would leave thousands of civilians vulnerable to environmental hazards and essential services offline for potentially weeks. As they executed their emergency plan, they witnessed the true extent of their creation's evolution. Corrupted organisms displayed emergent behaviors never programmed into their original design, suggesting the virus had unlocked latent capabilities in their neural networks. The realization forced them to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of consciousness and free will in their hybrid creations. Had they inadvertently created something truly alive, only to watch it become their greatest threat? In the aftermath of the viral attack, Lucas and Valeriana retreated to their most secure location, a hidden compartment within the station's central core, accessible only through a labyrinth of maintenance shafts and emergency access points. The space was cramped and utilitarian, dominated by blinking diagnostic panels and humming power conduits, but it offered unparalleled privacy for their most sensitive discussions. Sitting shoulder to shoulder on a repurposed equipment crate, they confronted the painful truths their recent failure had exposed. Their conversation began with technical analysis but quickly evolved into something deeper. Lucas confessed his growing unease about the ethical implications of their work, particularly how their creations had developed beyond their intended purpose. Valeriana, her voice trembling, admitted to feeling responsible for every life affected by their hybrid systems, both those saved and those endangered by their innovations. The weight of their shared guilt created an intimacy neither had experienced before, breaking down the last barriers between them. Their physical closeness during these vulnerable discussions naturally evolved into something more. One evening, after hours spent debating the nature of consciousness in their creations, Lucas gently touched Valeriana's hand resting on the console between them. The contact sparked an electric connection that transcended their professional relationship. Their first kiss was hesitant, born of equal parts attraction and comfort, but quickly deepened as they acknowledged the intensity of their feelings. This new dimension to their partnership brought both strength and complication to their mission. Working side by side took on new meaning as they navigated the delicate balance between personal affection and professional responsibility. Their arguments became more passionate, their victories more celebratory, and their failures more personally devastating. Trust evolved into something profound, allowing them to anticipate each other's thoughts and reactions with uncanny accuracy. Their relationship influenced their approach to the conspiracy in unexpected ways. Valeriana's genetic engineering projects began reflecting Lucas's mechanical sensibilities, while his system designs incorporated more organic elements. This fusion of their styles produced innovations neither could have achieved alone, but also created vulnerabilities they hadn't anticipated. Their enemies quickly recognized this dynamic, targeting their emotional connection as a potential weakness to exploit. Yet their bond proved to be their greatest strength. During moments of doubt or fear, the certainty of their commitment to each other provided stability. They developed a private language of gestures and glances that allowed them to communicate complex ideas instantly, even under observation. This unspoken understanding became crucial in high-stakes situations, enabling them to execute coordinated actions with minimal discussion. The conspiracy's leadership, frustrated by their repeated failures to eliminate Lucas and Valeriana, escalated their tactics dramatically. Operating from a hidden command center within a hollowed-out asteroid, they initiated Project Eclipse, a comprehensive strategy to dismantle the resistance network through a combination of psychological warfare and technological sabotage. At its core lay the Quantum Disruption Array, a device capable of generating interference patterns that could disrupt both biological and mechanical systems simultaneously. From their hidden observation point, Lucas and Valeriana watched as wave after wave of disruption pulses rippled through the station's infrastructure. The effects were devastating. Biomechanical hybrids went haywire, attacking both friend and foe indiscriminately. Maintenance systems collapsed into chaotic feedback loops. Even the station's artificial gravity fluctuated dangerously. Emergency lights flickered erratically, casting the corridors in strobing shadows that played havoc with both human vision and electronic sensors. Their response required abandoning conventional strategies. Valeriana proposed a radical solution, using the station itself as a giant Faraday cage. Working with Lucas's team of trusted engineers, they began rerouting power through the station's structural supports, effectively turning the entire facility into a shield against the disruption waves. The process was painstaking, requiring them to physically access junction points scattered throughout the station while avoiding both the chaos created by the disruption and roving squads of conspiracy enforcers. Meanwhile, Lucas focused on developing countermeasures for their biomechanical systems. Drawing on his experience with antique analog systems, he designed crude but effective dampening circuits that could protect their creations from the worst effects of the disruption waves. These devices, assembled from scavenged components and hastily fabricated parts, needed to be installed directly into each hybrid unit, a dangerous task that required getting impossibly close to the very systems they were trying to save. The situation reached its peak during a particularly intense disruption cycle. Trapped in a maintenance tunnel while installing the last of the dampening circuits, they witnessed firsthand the full destructive potential of the conspiracy's weapon. The walls around them vibrated with harmonic resonance, threatening to tear apart the station's very structure. Through the chaos, they maintained their focus, trusting in each other's expertise to guide them through the crisis. Their success came at a terrible cost. The strain of continuous exposure to the disruption waves left lasting effects on both their health and their creations. Some of their most advanced hybrids suffered permanent damage, their neural pathways irreparably scrambled. Others developed unpredictable behaviors that made them too dangerous to retain. The experience forced them to confront difficult questions about the sustainability of their approach and the ethical implications of continuing to develop technologies that could be so easily weaponized against them. In the quiet aftermath of their victory against the quantum disruption array, Lucas and Valeriana found themselves facing an unexpected challenge: the growing awareness of their relationship among their resistance network. News of their partnership had spread through subtle channels, carried by the very systems they had developed to protect their communications. While their closest allies celebrated their union as a symbol of hope, others viewed it with suspicion, questioning whether their personal connection compromised their judgment. The impact on their mission became evident during a critical strategy meeting. As they presented their latest plan for disrupting the conspiracy's supply chains, several cell leaders openly challenged their authority, citing potential bias in their decision-making. The most vocal critic, a former military strategist named Commander Voss, argued that their emotional involvement created vulnerabilities that could be exploited by their enemies. The tension in the room was palpable, with supporters and detractors dividing into opposing camps. Determined to prove their critics wrong, they implemented strict protocols to separate their personal and professional lives. During official meetings, they maintained professional distance, communicating through formal channels and avoiding any display of affection. Their living quarters became separate spaces, each dedicated exclusively to work or personal time. These measures, while necessary, took an emotional toll, forcing them to compartmentalize their relationship in ways that felt unnatural and isolating. Their response to this challenge became a testament to their commitment. Recognizing the validity of some concerns, they established a dual leadership structure, with each taking primary responsibility for different aspects of their operation. Valeriana focused on biological and genetic initiatives, while Lucas oversaw mechanical and logistical matters. This division of responsibilities not only addressed concerns about bias, but also leveraged their individual strengths more effectively. The conspiracy seized upon this internal division, launching misinformation campaigns designed to exacerbate existing tensions. Fabricated reports suggested that their relationship had caused critical security breaches, while planted evidence hinted at favoritism in resource allocation. Each new accusation required careful investigation and transparent communication, testing their ability to maintain trust within their network while protecting their personal bond. Through it all, their relationship evolved into something stronger and more resilient. Their separation during work hours created a renewed appreciation for their time together, while the challenges they faced strengthened their mutual understanding. They developed a remarkable ability to switch between professional and personal modes, maintaining clear boundaries while preserving the depth of their connection. This duality became their greatest strength, allowing them to navigate both the technical and human aspects of their mission with unprecedented effectiveness. The final confrontation unfolded in the heart of the conspiracy's stronghold, a massive space station hidden within the gravitational shadow of a dying star. Its location, revealed through painstaking analysis of intercepted communications and pattern recognition in shipping manifests, represented both their greatest opportunity and gravest danger. The station's proximity to the collapsing star created unique challenges, with intense gravitational waves interfering with navigation systems and radiation levels threatening to overwhelm their protective shielding. Preparation required every resource at their disposal. Valeriana's team worked tirelessly to develop radiation-resistant variants of their biomechanical hybrids, while Lucas's engineers retrofitted their assault vessels with gravity compensators harvested from decommissioned survey ships. The plan involved a multi-pronged approach. A direct assault team led by Commander Solis would create a diversion, drawing security forces away from the central command center where the conspiracy's leaders coordinated their operations. Their role proved to be the most dangerous, penetrating the station's core through maintenance tunnels originally designed for reactor maintenance. The passage twisted through lethal radiation zones and gravitational anomalies, requiring precise timing and constant adjustment. Valeriana's genetically enhanced vision allowed her to detect safe paths through the radiation fields, while Lucas's mechanical expertise kept their environmental suits functioning despite the extreme conditions. The climax came in the station's central nexus, where they finally confronted the mastermind behind the conspiracy, Director Magnus Hale, a former scientific colleague of Valeriana's whose obsession with genetic purity had driven him to madness. The confrontation was both physical and ideological, as Hale attempted to justify his actions through twisted logic about species preservation. His arguments, delivered with the fervor of a zealot, forced them to articulate their own beliefs about the future of biological and technological evolution. The battle itself became a desperate dance through the station's deteriorating infrastructure. Gravitational spikes sent equipment flying, while radiation bursts forced them to constantly adjust their positions. Valeriana's bioorganic enhancements and Lucas's mechanical adaptations complemented each other perfectly, allowing them to anticipate and counter Hale's increasingly desperate attempts to trigger the station's self-destruct sequence. Victory came at a terrible cost. The station's artificial gravity generators failed, plunging them into weightlessness just as the reactor core began its final destabilization. They managed to transmit the evidence of Hale's crimes before escaping through emergency ejection tubes, watching as the station was consumed by the dying star's gravitational pull. The experience left them forever changed, their bodies bearing the marks of extreme radiation exposure and their minds haunted by the knowledge they had gained. Weeks later, aboard the rebuilt Celestial Symphony, Lucas and Valeriana stood together in the observation deck, watching as their ship's organic hull repaired itself from the radiation damage sustained during their final mission. The scars of their journey were visible in more than just the ship's structure. Valeriana's once pristine laboratory now bore the marks of countless emergencies, while Lucas's workshop featured new safety protocols that spoke to lessons learned the hard way. Their relationship had transformed from partners in resistance to architects of a new paradigm. Together, they had developed the Harmony Protocol, a revolutionary framework for integrating biological and mechanical systems that prioritized ethical considerations and mutual benefit. This protocol established guidelines for creating biomechanical hybrids that respected both organic and artificial autonomy, preventing the kind of abuses that had driven their fight against the conspiracy. The legacy of their struggle extended far beyond their immediate achievements. Across multiple star systems, independent research collectives adopted their principles of ethical integration, while governments implemented regulations based on their safety protocols. Their network of resistance cells evolved into a federation of progressive scientists and engineers, committed to advancing technology while safeguarding individual rights and ecological balance. Personal growth manifested in subtle but profound ways. Valeriana's approach to genetic engineering shifted from pure research to applied ethics, while Lucas's mechanical designs increasingly incorporated sustainable and regenerative elements. Their shared experiences had taught them the importance of community and collaboration, leading them to establish open-source platforms for sharing knowledge and innovations. Looking forward, they plan to expand their influence through education and advocacy, traveling to worlds where technological advancement threatened to outpace ethical considerations. Their mission had transformed from combating specific threats to promoting a holistic vision of progress that respected both biological and mechanical evolution. The scars they carried served as reminders of the price of vigilance, while their accomplishments stood as testament to the power of partnership and principle. Remember to subscribe for more thrilling adventures across the stars.